Let's go. Johnny Cinco, Christian here. As always, streaming live Fridays, 8 Eastern. And we are on all major platforms. So always please do like, share, and subscribe. Johnny, how many Facebook likes do we need on the Facebook page? Explain how that works, please.
Well, ultimately, guys, we need you guys to like 100. We need 100 likes on our Facebook page. So, in general, that you like our content on our page.
Not the post, the page.
Correct.
Gotcha.
So, I know you confused some people with the content. I got some emails asking me about it. So, ultimately, that's all you need to do. That way, we can go ahead and have the live show broadcast live on Facebook.
Thank you for the clarity there. I didn't ask you to throw me under the bus.
Yeah, it's all right.
So listen,
I
folks.
I did that out of my own enjoyment there. It's okay.
All the Florida content from the Florida man perspective right here. And as we're starting this show live, Johnny Cinco, we are just a couple of weeks from official training camp kicking off.
Okay.
I'm freaking excited for the season. But before we start rocking and rolling with the Bucs, I do want to remind everybody next week is 4th of July. It does fall on a Friday, so we will be taking the day off.
Yes, we're going to celebrate America. So we're going to take the day off and do what you guys should be doing, celebrate it with your family.
Let's go. Speaking about celebrating, there's nobody happier in Tampa right now than Coach Bowles. I said it right, Bowles.
Yeah,
Coach
Todd Bowles.
Coach Bowles and Jason Light. They just signed extensions with the Tampa Bay Bucs. Now they're basically hand in hand, Johnny, for the next 3 years. The deal wasn't disclosed. We don't know the amounts. We just know that it goes through the 2028 season.
Well, we know it's 3 years, right?
3 years, yeah. 2028 season. What are your thoughts? What's your instant reaction to the breaking news?
I mean, we'll go back and forth a little bit on this. So I'll start with just, your boy, Jason Light. So Jason Light, if you guys been listening to the show at all, Chris has a man crush on Jason Light. Says, that's the greatest GM that's ever existed.
Sam wrong, folks. Sam wrong. Sam wrong.
Let's focus right now on the positive with Jason Light. Dude won a Super Bowl. He drafted key players, just a few of them: Mike Evans, Tristan Wirfs, Vita Vea, Winfield Jr., Godwin. I can name probably 6 more players, Chris. He drafted well. If you're thinking about Bowles specifically, just the good, he's entering his 4th season right now.
Yes.
Under his stewardship, the Bucs defense has ranked amongst the best.
Yep.
Leading the NFL in rushing defense, opponents' yards per carry, fumble recovery, 2nd in sacks, and 5th in red zone efficiency. So you see the good between what both, Light and Bowles. You see, okay, I can see why you gave him the extension. Now let's focus, Chris, a little bit on the not so good, Chris. I know that it's possible, Chris, that there's actually it is possible that something bad.
There's nothing negative about this, but we're again, you're always going to get both perspectives, so we're going to let Johnny Cinco continue. Go ahead. Finish what you're going to say.
I'm going
Give me
to,
the bad.
But how can you see in anything, there's always a good and a bad.
Nope, not in my world.
Unless that is correct.
Shit.
Unless in the world of Chris, Tampa Bay lifer, there's no
Out
bad.
of your mind.
So specifically with let's look at Jason Light. Jason Light, I said all the good there, but in reality, he's been the GM since 2014. Guys, outside of forget this past year, he has 2 years where he has double-digit win totals, and those were Tom Brady years where they won 11 and 13 games. They just won 10 games last year. So ultimately, you're looking at this, you're like, okay, I respect the players you brought in. I respect that you got Tom Brady in, but remember, Tom Brady made that phone call. Jason Light didn't make the phone call to get Tom Brady. Tom Brady initiated that contact, but still respect for Jason Light because he still made sure it got done. So that he helped bring a Super Bowl to Tampa, and that's big. That's not something I'm just going to go and gloss over, but we're still talking about 10 years and 3 years where there's double-digit win totals. That's a problem. So, I mean, that's the bad for me with Jason Light. Now, I know we're going to get to what you have to say about this whole thing, how great it is here. Same thing with Bowles. If you're looking at Bowles, I said all this good with Bowles, but, guys, he's 27 and 24 as the Tampa Bay head coach. 27 and 24. In what world does going 3 games over 500 over 3 years get you a 3-year extension? We just saw coaches like McCarthy who won, which I'm not a fan of, but won 12 games. Okay, you're fired. There's so many 12 to 14 games, so many good coaches that have done so much more that got fired. In Bowles, we talked about this before, Chris, that this is a make or break for Bowles, that you have to prove it this year, do something. If you don't, there's a real big chance that this may be your very last year as a Tampa Bay head coach. And here they give him an extension. I don't think they needed to give him an extension. They were a little premature on that.
He was playing on the last year of his contract. This was the last year of his contract.
Okay.
And kudos to Jason Light, because what this essentially does is it takes the wool away from the eyes. Now you don't have to worry, Tampa. All the players are a little bit calmer. You know that this is the coach going forward. So now you just got to focus on football. So how is this not all good and nothing bad? I don't know. That rant that you just did, I completely disagree with it. And look, I'm going to address the record of 27 and 24. Let's go a little further. He's 53 and 65 all time. This gives him the opportunity to actually finish with a winning record for his career before he retires, and the recipe is there. What this shows more than anything, besides continuity, besides calming down fans and the team, more importantly, is that the inside of things. Jason Light is an amazing GM, and what this tells us, Johnny, more than anything, is that he sees what happens in the locker room, what we don't see, what the tape doesn't show, and that this coach is credited. This coach is believed by the players. This coach has everything that he needs to move forward. What I love about it is that people like this guy, we're talking about, what was it, Belichick? This year he's in the hot seat.
The greatest coach of all time?
In the hot seat. And then some people, after seeing John Gruden recently, were actually welcoming a John Gruden comeback. What this basically does for me, Johnny, it tells me very clear, God forbid, let's say Mayfield gets hurt, the season doesn't go as planned, we win 6-7 games because of injuries, God forbid, right? But let's just talk about that. What this basically tells me is that Bowles isn't going anywhere. So there's no more, he's in the hot seat. I don't want to hear that conversation anymore. Let's focus on football. Let's focus on winning some games, because it doesn't matter. They're committed for the 3 years, so no matter what happens this year, the next 2-3 years are a guarantee in my book. So kudos to the coach.
What do you mean in your book? Of course it is.
Kudos to the coach. Kudos to Jason Light for seeing what we diehard Buck fans do see, and I'm happy that we don't have to worry about this year hot seat conversations with coach.
So you're concerned. You really said nothing there.
Yeah,
because
I said everything.
You said nothing.
Yeah.
You said that what this tells me is that this head coach will be around for the next few years.
Yeah,
no,
and rightfully
wow.
so. That he deserves to be there. What don't you understand?
He does.
You were talking about Belichick. You were wrong. You could apologize and say, "Hey, I was wrong." That doesn't happen.
I didn't bring up Belichick. You did. I just referenced
previous
when we brought him up, I just referenced that he's the greatest coach of all time. What I referenced, which clear stats, basic obvious things to where. As your GM that you went ahead and said is the greatest GM of all time, has had 11 years with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and has 3 seasons with 10 wins or more. The last year was 1 and 2 years with Brady. That's it. Many years under 500, many years single-digit victories. I mean, he's had some good draft picks and he made some moves. So I'm not really that upset with Jason Light. I didn't think they needed to go make this extension. I do not understand Bowles, I do not understand it whatsoever. It's his last year. Yes, this was
we're talking about making the playoffs this year, a deep playoff run, everyone, including the power rankings as far as the commentary is concerned. But you want to sit here and say that he's not worthy and deserving of it. This is why you don't run a franchise, Johnny. This is why. That's the reason why. Because then if you're in the hot seat for the season when you're supposed to be going to the playoffs and winning games, you're not on a prove it deal anymore. You've got the next 3 years, coach. Go out there and coach with confidence. That's what we want to see. That's what we want to see.
You reference his overall head coaching record, which I didn't bring up, and he's well under 500. I didn't even bring it up because that's irrelevant to me. All I'm concerned about is your record here with Tampa Bay. And with Tampa Bay, you're 3 games over 500. You're barely over 500. You have 1 playoff victory to your name. And you keep saying all this stuff here. Like, I think Tampa Bay is a talented team. I think we've seen everything we needed to see from Bowles, and he's not the guy that's going to lead this team to a Super Bowl. He's just not going to.
Except that we're going to see this year a very deep playoff run and see where that goes.
Yes, I get that. That's wishful thinking.
It's the season, baby. Let's go. It's Florida-man sports.
The stats don't support that. Ultimately, for me, the guy's an outstanding defensive coordinator, and he should remain as offensive coordinator. But as a head coach, it's been proven for me. I've seen enough of Todd Bowles to know that he's not the guy that's going to lead the Buccaneers to prosperity. It's just not going to happen. He's going to lead them to, at best, an early playoff exit.
And Jason Light, we trust. This is why you get both perspectives. Since we want to be negative Nancy over here, Florida-man sports, Johnny Cinco. Moving on to the Miami Dolphins here. Let's see how you feel about Jaylen Ramsey. The word on the street, he's going to be traded within the next couple of weeks before camp starts. Questions about his value. We've gone back and forth about this, but give me some trade options. Let's see if Florida Man Sports can call it early where he's going to go.
Well, Ramsey's definitely is not going to start the season as a Miami Dolphin. He's going to go. Now, the reports that I've read, I'm sure you're the same thing, list a number of different teams. The Rams,
You don't have my
Steelers,
sources.
Raiders, Cowboys. These are all options. Even the Patriots were mentioned, but my sources actually have everything pointed towards the Chargers. I think he's going back to California. I think Harbaugh, the way he's a defensive coach, they have the money. They lost a key defensive player for them in Bosa. So to go ahead and add that secondary player, still one of the best secondary players in the league. I think they're going to make that move. Harbaugh doesn't have an issue spending money on defense. On defense, it's not
So
an
then why
issue
did Bosa leave?
because Bosa's different.
Oh, he's different.
Yes, no. At the end of the day, they made some changes there. They don't mind, they can negotiate exactly what they want. Bosa wanted X amount of dollars, so they weren't going to go ahead and get that. Now with Ramsey, he's coming in. They can always restructure that. Bosa wanted too much. Bosa was the name. He was still good.
So 30-year-old Jaylen Ramsey that is going to get traded because he won't restructure his contract will do it for the Chargers?
Well, he's going to get traded just because of the fact that the Dolphins can't afford him. The Dolphins, we've talked about this several times, how the Dolphins have no money. They've done very well with no money. Now, obviously, the Chargers have a little more money to play with. Now, I'm not talking about a multi-year extension. I think it's going to probably be a one-year deal, maybe even two. I honestly think it's going to be a one-year deal. He's going to play for whoever team he signs for 1 year. He's going to go ahead and try to hit, free agency and so he can get more money. Maybe what Revis did. Remember Revis signed a 1 year, $20 million deal with the Patriots, helped them win a Super Bowl, and then went back to the Jets. So it's always players of his caliber that can go on 1 year, fully guaranteed, big
Rams
dollars.
got 3 more years on that contract he signed last year, though. He's got 3 more years.
Yes, but guess what? It's none of that's guaranteed any longer. So it still ends up being something that can work around with. That's the reason why they're like, okay, it ain't going to work here with Miami. They're going to move on from him. So yes, he still has the money there. That whole contract's going to be restructured.
So I disagree wholeheartedly. In fact, the reason why he's being traded, my sources tell me that it's because of the fact that Dolphins don't want to pay him that money. You're right about that, but he's going to get paid. And so Miami's has to decide when they trade him, are they willing to pay some of that money? That's really the conversation. That's why it's taking so long. And so the rumor is that we're talking about a 4th, 5th, round. I've heard even 6th round pick. My question to you, Johnny, before I give you my take on this is, so you're saying the Chargers, right? What does that trade look like?
Well, the Miami is going to go ahead and will take a lower draft pick. They're not paying any money. The whole point is
So you're saying Miami doesn't pay any money, a low draft pick?
Miami is not going to pay any money. They're going to receive a low draft pick. This is how it's going to work out. They can go ahead and really want to pay a good chunk of it, a second round or something wrong there, but that's not going to happen. They're going to go ahead and just go ahead because they know, every team knows that, okay, they don't want to pay this guy. So they'll take the brunt of that contract, or especially this year for 1 year, figure something out for him. But they're going to end up getting, I think, around a 5th. I think at best a 4th round draft pick for Ramsey.
So I think that ultimately, if you're an NFL team right now, if you're giving anything higher than a 5th, you're overpaying for this guy. Even though I want the Dolphins to obviously win a trade, I have 2 scenarios for you, Johnny. The first one is where I think he's going to go. Yeah, I think he's going to go back to his actual team. So right as far as Los Angeles, but he's going to go back to the Rams. Nah. That's my go-to. What my sources tell me, and it's going to be a form of a lower draft pick and money. And that's what I think is going to happen there. Now, I did do some analytics. I did do some research. Here's the trade that if the Miami Dolphins are listening to the podcast right now, here's what you should do, which I think is going to cover some bases, okay? The Green Bay Packers. The Green Bay Packers, they have $35 million in cap space right now, so they could absorb it. Not that they would, but they can. A 5th round pick from Green Bay and tight end Luke Musgrave. That's the second tight end. Remember, they're deep at tight end. And if you go to Luke's career last year, he had a subpar year in part because Tucker Kraft is now the tight end 1, right? So Luke Musgrave last year was not a good year. The year before that, he had 500 yards as a tight end. Imagine getting the tight end in a 5th round pick. I don't care if you have to give cash, Miami, but imagine this. You know what's going on with Geno Smith. We all know that already. You can cover 2 birds with 1 stone here, right? And so that to me is what I would do. It fixes the cap. It helps your situation. It gives you a tight end that can actually start now. And I think maybe Geno Smith is going to want to come back and play because now you have control again, which is something that we don't have in Miami right now.
You really think that Smith is going to go somewhere else? He's not going to play?
No, it's not that he's not going to play, Johnny. That's a great question. It's the fact that he's still absent and he's not there. And many people feel like he still holds most of the chips. This is kind of one of those moves where if you bring somebody like Luke in there, it's like, hey, listen, we're not moving you. So we're prepared to move on the next few games without you. And that kind of puts the pressure for him to have to show up because now he's playing for the tight end one position all over again. If you think about it, because he's been absent. That's what I'm trying to accomplish here.
I get it,
Yeah.
but the people that say that Smith holds most of the chips are being foolish. Smith doesn't hold most of the chips. The guy had a half season of dominant football. Nobody's ever heard of this guy. He did nothing before that. So he's trying to take these few games and run with it and try to get more money. I'm not mad at the kid for doing it, but ultimately, they try to make a trade to the Steelers. Didn't work out there because the Steelers were basically offering nothing, and they weren't going to give him the money that he wanted, even from the Steelers, because there's not enough. Dude, you don't have enough cred yet. You have a certain amount on tape, so you have to go ahead and build that up. Let's people see a full season. Can you survive a full season as a starter for a team and what your production looks like? And then you'll go ahead and get paid. But you want to get paid off of production of what, 6-7 games? Smith, I'm sorry, it's not going to happen. He's going to be forced to come back to Miami, play, and see what his production is. If he's foolish enough, Chris, to go and be like, no, I'm going to sit out, then he's never going to get paid. Maybe he'll go ahead, another team, he's going to get $0 now this year.
It's about making pressure moves, and that's why I want to see Miami do something like this. But
he's not in the position to pressure moves.
And last thing I'll say about this idea, because we're talking about Ramsey at cornerback, and some people are saying that as he's getting older, he's going to move to safety. Well, he'll be an elite safety in his later years. So this is a great move for Green Bay as well, a team that's ready to compete right now. So I just want to let you guys, this is a well thought out idea. So again, Miami, I mean, let's go back to the Rams and the Chargers, and then this. Between the three, which one would you want to do?
I understand, because you're referencing the Packers, because this is exactly what they did when they got Charles Woodson and they won the Super Bowl.
That's a good comparison.
It's exactly what they did. Charles Woodson actually then went to safety because his older years and still played in elite secondary. Ramsey's still right there. He can do that. He can do that for any team. Any team he goes to is going to be that. But when you're kind of like, okay, you're still good, but you're up in age. But let's be clear, he's still a dominant corner. But if he even moves over to safety, I don't think this year, maybe the next year he will.
No.
Something along that.
And bottom line, he can be that hybrid right now for Green Bay that wants to win right now. And they're deep at wide receiver and they're set at tight end. So, man, hopefully, fingers crossed. It'd be crazy if we land on one of those, if he goes to, like you said, the Chargers or the Rams.
I still think that he's going to end up going Chargers. You saying it's going to be the Rams?
I'm saying that's the Rams. Yeah, my wishful thinking is saying the Packers.
Well, it's going to be California. That's what Florida Man Sports predicts anyway.
Florida Man Sports, streaming on all major platforms. As always, please like, share, subscribe. Trying to get YouTube once we get those 100 page likes. Johnny Cinco, we've got the Bucs in check. We've got the Dolphins in check. Let's move on to Duval.
Oh,
how was that? Was that good?
Yeah, it was just as good as Cohen.
Duval?
Yeah. Okay. Duval.
Let's play a little over-under, folks. Let's have some fun here at Florida Man Sports. Johnny Cinco. Now as the weeks change, that the games plus and minuses change. So I'm going to just throw some stuff at you as far as game wins with the Jaguars. I'm going to throw at you some passing yards, touchdowns, receptions.
I'm higher than you are with the Jags and
that's okay.
Victories.
That's it.
You have no faith.
We're gonna play a little plus. We're gonna play a little plus and minus. I'm gonna give you some facts, and then you tell me the plus minus. Let's roll.
Okay.
They've got the 6th easiest strength of schedule. MGM has them at 7.5 games right now. Over or under?
Oh, it's gonna be over. I already told you this. I know you have them under. I told you for me, they legit have a shot. It's going to be feast or famine for the Jacksonville Jaguars. All these moves they made were going to be like all the right moves or all the wrong moves. So we're going to see if Travis Hunter's the dude, if Cohen's the guy. All those things are going to be questions that are going to be answered. It's not going to be halfway. They're not going to go and sink in at 6-7 wins where you think, oh, that's an improvement. No.
Or it would be from 4 games to 7, yeah.
These guys are going to go ahead and compete for the division or completely fall off completely, one or the other. Either way, we're going to get a lot of questions answered. Now, for me, I think Jacksonville is going to be outstanding. They're going to do very well, and they're going to go ahead and be well over what Las Vegas has them at.
We want to try, when we go over under here, Florida Man Sports, to have some type of consistency, right? Because I know you gambling degenerates are going to be, like Johnny here. You want to make sure we're putting you in the right spot. But yeah, I'm going to stick with my under on this one.
I gamble with friendships.
I think 4-7, 3-game swing is an improvement. He thinks it's not, but more importantly, I
Trash.
don't see 8
As
games.
a fan, you think like we went from 3 to 6. You're not high fiving each other.
I'm going to
from
tell you
3 to
right
6,
now
bro.
what Duval really wants, and please comment if I'm wrong, but what they want is they want consistent growth. And if it's 3 games here, then next year it's another 2 games, and guess what? Now you're at year 3, and you've got a winning record consistently. What the Bucs are trying to do. Let's go.
You didn't
Sorry,
pay.
sorry about that. Back to the Bucs. Let's go.
You didn't pay Trevor Lawrence $250 million to go ahead and get 6 victories. So nobody, no Duval fan is gonna be happy, or you know, what I mean, you can try to be
I think you're
complacent
wrong.
with
I
that.
think
So,
Duval
no.
fans will be happy with 3
I disagree. I think that
Oh,
this
man.
team is set up as a good team. They fell off the track a little bit with Doug Peterson. Now let's see if Cohen, the Buccaneer protege, if the Buccaneer who said no then said yes, can he go ahead and bring that prominence? Now, if he does well, if Cohen does well for Jacksonville, then this is a mistake by your boy Jason Light. That's not seeing what he was available there and getting rid of
You
Bowles
just
when he
notice
could
how
have
Johnny,
and
when this
picked up Cohen
podcast
for the
started,
Bucs.
Johnny
So
went
there it is.
from negative Johnny to now, pessimist Johnny. Like it's just shifting. I don't know what you're doing
I
here.
mean, that's about the same.
Talking about a coach that just got a 3-year
I'm just
extension
saying,
about
I'm
him
throwing
getting
out
fired.
there. Well, he should never got the extension. You know where
Oh,
I'm at.
over under, folks. You just mentioned Trevor Lawrence. Let's talk about him. His most successful season was in 2022, where he had 4,000 plus yards and he had 25 touchdowns, so 4,113 yards to be exact.
Yes.
With the new system, Johnny Cinco, him being healthy, playing every single game, we know the injuries, right? Take all that into consideration. 4,100 passing yards, over under.
He's going to go over. It's just going to be a record year for Trevor Lawrence. Obviously, they have the tools in place. I can sit here and name all the players. I don't need to forget. It doesn't matter, guys. They have the receivers in place. I would have liked for them to pick up somebody like an Amari Cooper, a veteran.
Man, it
that
could
was,
still very well happen.
Yeah,
We talked about that. It could still happen.
I want one more veteran receiver in that room because that receiver room is immensely talented, but they're young. So I would really like to see, give me a vet, a Pro Bowl vet that's in there that's going to go ahead, and that's Amari Cooper. So I'm waiting somebody there, whether it's Amari Cooper, whether it's, I don't know if Robert Wood's still available, or anybody's an old vet, somebody else that's there that can go ahead and improve that receiver room, at least from the mental capacity, improve that receiver room. So
here's where we can agree. I'm taking the over as well.
You're taking the over?
I think a healthy Trevor Lawrence will give us over 4,100 yards.
But they're going to get 6
That
games?
doesn't mean you're going to win the games. We're going to get to the next
I
part,
got
which
you.
is the touchdowns.
Okay.
25 touchdowns this season, over under.
Well, if I'm projecting,
You don't have to have both. You don't have to take both.
I'm aware of that, but just basic, basic math is going to tell me.
Basic math.
Is going to tell me that if you have about 42 to 4,500 yards passing, that you're going to be over that. You're going to be right around that, 25 to 30 touchdowns. I'm thinking a massive year. This kid, number 1 overall pick out of Clemson. Everybody was projecting this kid to essentially be the next Peyton Manning. So now it's time to put up or shut up. Now we saw everything. You went through the growing pains. Now you have some weapons there. Now it's time for you to show up. And I think that this year Trevor Lawrence is showing up. So yes, give me the over, kid.
So that's exactly why we have the win difference as far as the wins and losses here. And let me give you the breakdown, though. One thing that Cohen was known for, I love how you pointed me out because he's a Buck and he was a former Buck offensive coach. Let me be very clear. Cohen is a smart guy when it comes to offenses. And yes, he wants to run and gun. However, Johnny, coming off of this injury, I think it's going to play a part. I think that the running back game is going to be a little bit stronger, the dual running back to ease Lawrence there. So he'll get the yardage, but I don't think he'll get the touchdowns that we think that we're going to hit. So I'm going to take the under because of that. And again, that kind of goes back to why I have the wins the way that I do. That's my take on that. I have the under.
Well, strong running game only improves the passing game.
For the yardage, not necessarily for the touchdowns. There's nothing to prove that's the way that works. So,
and something to prove. And in general, obviously, early on, you start running down their throats. You start seeing there, and you set up play action, even in the red zone. That's going to increase it. Now, am I telling you he's going to 40 to 50 touchdowns? He has the skills to do so. But you asked me, what, 25? Is he going to hit 25 touchdowns? Yes, he's
25 plus. Yep.
If I'm predicting a quarterback is going to have 42 to 4,500 yards passing, how the heck am I going to assume that he's going to get, 13 touchdowns? So how many touchdowns do you expect Trevor Lawrence? You said that you agree that you expect him to have over 4,100. Because
Absolutely.
So you expect him to have say 4,200 yards passing.
Yep.
How many touchdowns do you project him to have?
18 to 23, still under 25.
You expect
18 to 23 passing touchdowns. If the running game does what I expect it to do, which I do expect them to be more relevant, and they're going to steal 7, 8, 10 touchdowns, yes, I could very well see that. 100%.
that's
And
erroneous.
You can't say
Erroneous
that
on both counts.
You can't say that. And then talking about Lawrence before we go over to the running backs, the only year that he had 25 was that 22 season anyway. So all that votes to my point. So
Yes, so if he had 25 with 41, I'm saying he's going to have a record year be over that.
He had 4,000. Right, exactly.
So
Predictions.
So then clearly it's
predictions.
Go
I got you.
So you're just thinking that the running backs are going to steal all.
Well, remember, I'm a human calculator, so I'm pretty right about these things, and you're pretty wrong about these things.
The receiver room still is a better receiver room than they were last year. They've upgraded it, even though you disagree with me, but they upgraded the receiver room. They still have a chance to upgrade it a little bit more. And so you have that in place here. So you have.
I like how you watch this stuff just to prove it a little bit more.
So you have no. So you're gonna sit here and like.
Let's talk about that receiver room. I can't wait till the season starts and kicks off so we can talk about who's right, who's wrong here. But let's talk about that receiver room, Johnny Cinco. Brian Thomas Jr., we know the rookie had an excellent year 1. This is year 2. Before you give me your over-under on this, will Travis Hunter take away looks? Will he have a sophomore slump? These are all the questions before you answer this, right? He had 1,200 yards, 1,282 receiving, and 10 touchdowns. So 1,300 yards, over-under.
No, dude. Thomas Jr. is not going to have a sophomore slump or whatever. He will have one if Trevor Lawrence isn't the Trevor Lawrence.
Stop with the ifs.
Expect.
Give the fans what they want. Over or under.
This kid is the real deal. The Jacksonville Jaguars finally got it right. You know, they drafted so many receivers that were just complete bust. And they go ahead and pick up this kid, and people have low expectations just because of the fact that so many mistakes that the Jaguars have done. And this kid showed up. Year 1, elite. This kid is the real deal. He is going to end up being a top 5 receiver in the entire league. He very well may go ahead and cement that this year coming up. But of course, since you're talking about a receiver, what's important is who's throwing him the rock. I'm sorry, that's how it works here. So as long as Trevor Lawrence is actually there and he's doing what we expect him to do, what I expect him, I expect him to do. We both expect him to have 4,000 plus yards passing, and I guarantee you that most of that yardage is going to go straight to your boy, Thomas Jr. So yes, I expect whatever number you gave me over.
Yeah, I'm taking 1,300 plus as well. We're both going to be over on this one. Talk about the touchdowns. 10 touchdowns, over, under.
Push. I'm at 10.
Push. Push. You're so stupid.
I'm at 10.
I'm going to, obviously, I went with less on the touchdowns, which is obvious why I'm going to say under 10. I think the running backs are going to take a lot of those goal line touchdowns. Let's talk about those running backs, Johnny Cinco. And let me just real quick give you a little breakdown. I know you know already, but just to catch everybody up here. Etienne, first 2 years out the gate, over 1,000 yards rushing. He was running back number 1. Last year, he takes a back seat, 558 yards rushing to 2 touchdowns. So for Etienne first, right now, he's technically still RB1. And if you go to the depth chart right now, training camp hasn't started yet. Mm-hmm. So 700 yards for Etienne, over or under?
I think that Etienne, there were some improvements to the offensive line, so that's going to help there. But man, Etienne's just such a hard. I'm trying to figure out, is he really the guy we thought he was, or should we just move on from him? Is he Najee Harris? Is he the guy that was amazing in college and came in and never really reached his potential? Let's move on from him. And I think what Etienne is Najee Harris. And I don't think we're going to get the production that we wanted from him. So I don't see much from Etienne. So I personally have given up on him. So I don't see him going over that. I see him going under that.
I'm going to say the over. I'm going to kind of, again, I could see why you're going under, right? Because you're putting everything together with the success that Lawrence is going to have. Mm-hmm. I'm saying he's not, so rightfully so. I'm going to say over. And the reason I'm going to say over, everything I mentioned about Lawrence, easing him back into that and all that good stuff, but I feel like he's going to get a lot of the goal lines. And I think that Cohen is going to revitalize him, which I think that's going to be the biggest thing is if they make the running game a primary thing there, that Etienne's going to be the one that enjoys that part the most. So give me over on the 700 yards.
Well, Cohen is... he likes to throw the ball.
He does, but he does.
Obviously, you still need a running game to set up the proper offensive attack that he wants to do.
I'm basing it all on easing it back from the injury. That's what I'm basing it back on.
But I think we like I said, we've seen the best. If Etienne was going to show up, we saw 1,000 yards. We saw like an elite back we would have seen it by now. I think with the running back position, you don't need to wait long to see some greatness. And we haven't seen it from Etienne. It is what it is. He's Najee Harris. He's the guy that we thought was going to do something and never really did.
If you're still tuning in with us, thank you so much. I always want to remind you that we are streaming on all major platforms. Talked about the Bucs, talked about the Dolphins. We're putting a bow, Johnny Cinco, on the Jacksonville Jaguars. And now that we have to talk about Etienne, we got to talk about Tank Bigsby. Just first year, 132 yards. Last year, he goes 756 yards, really showing that RB1 option. So for him, you gave me the for Etienne, but for Tank Bigsby, 700 plus or minus.
MB plus. I think he's going to end up taking over the RB1 position. Period. He's going to be the guy. I think Etienne's will be there. I don't care if they start the season with him as RB1. I like what I see more from Tank than I do see from Etienne. So at the end of the day, obviously you still need to see something there. So I do see Etienne probably around 800-900 yards this upcoming year.
Yeah, I'm going to take the over on that as well. I think
you have both running backs on over?
That's what I was saying back as far as it being a very heavy running game. I do see the ball. I do see 4,000 yards. It's not very hard to do in this 2025 passing game of the NFL. But again, the touchdowns, the goal line touches going to the running backs. I won't go over touchdowns on this episode, but I do see both of them having over 700 yards. And I'm going to say one last thing on Tank too that maybe you'll disagree with me on this. Okay. I don't see him as an RB1, folks. I don't see his body when you look at the tape. I don't know that he can handle 17 weeks. I don't know that he can handle 200 plus touches in a season. So I'm not ready to say that he can.
Why do you say that?
Just from what I see, seeing him play, he missed the game last year.
He's a big guy.
He's a short, stocky guy who every play he gets up, he's like nicked or he's walking funny. I don't see him. That was with under 200 carries. I just don't see him carrying the load. I'll go back to the running backs for Tampa Bay.
Short, stocky, like diesel dude, kind of like the work done.
Yeah, he's none. Well, no, kind of like he's not Frank Gore. He's not Frank Gore.
So Frank Gore, which was short,
but he could handle the hits.
Like
you got to be able to handle the hits. So
going most great, like Barry Sanders.
Going back to the Bucs real quick to give you a better example, Bucky Irving, right? Everybody's expecting Bucky Irving to be RB1. He's another guy that to me doesn't pass the eye test when it comes to being RB1. He's dynamic.
Did you watch last season?
Every game. He's dynamic. He's great. He's a great running back, but he's going to need that person to help him out so he can last all year. That's all I'm saying. And please comment if you disagree with that. But if you watch the games like I do, I'm telling you, he is a dynamic running back. He could be RB1, but can he handle 250 touches in a season? I don't know that he can.
Bucky Irvin's going to end up being the RB1 for Tampa Bay.
Yeah, of course, I'm talking about the carries. I'm talking about the carries.
If you're the RB1, you're gonna get majority of the carries, sir. That's how it works. So Bucky number 1, Tank number 1. So saying that you're short. The greatest backs of all time were short and stocky. There's only a few anomalies. There's only a few Eddie Georges.
You keep missing. I like how you pick and choose what I say.
A few.
The short and stocky running back, you still have to pass the tape. Excuse me. Every time you get up, if you're getting up and you're nicked.
Bucky,
do you know how many times Bucky was hurt last year? Do you know how many times he was hurt last year?
He got up and it's like, oh, he saw him. How dare you wince? How dare you even look?
I'll give you another one. I'll give you another one. So, and this is how I know ball. Sure. Look at Pacheco for the Chiefs. Okay. The guy's running, and you're like, that guy's going to get hurt. He ended up getting hurt. You remember that? You watch the games. That's what I'm talking about. There's some running backs that just they don't pass the eye test.
No. You're talking about production, and Pacheco's always been about production. Now,
until he gets hurt.
Pacheco,
go ahead, finish it. Until he gets hurt. Short, stocky running back until he gets hurt.
Pacheco isn't as short and stocky as Bucky Irvin or any of the running backs he was referenced. The issue with Pacheco, which he says himself, that dude stomps on the ground so hard, so fast. Everybody has seen Pacheco knows, like, okay, this guy is not going to have a long career. He even knows it himself. He doesn't care. He wasn't expected to be in the NFL. He didn't care about being in the NFL. So the fact that he got here, he's like, I'm going to give him my all. If I'm here for 5 seasons, 6 seasons, whatever it is, I'm going to give everything I got to this game. So that's how he decided to. But Pacheco isn't the guy that we're talking about. You're referencing short,
bottom line is I'm very, very happy that Etienne is still part of the Jaguars. I'm very happy. I'm very happy that the Bucs still have the 2 running backs because both these guys are going to need it. Tank's going to need it.
Would you rather
so's Bucky.
Would you rather have Bucky or Etienne?
No, I'd rather keep what we have.
Would you rather have Bucky or Etienne?
No, keep it the way that it is.
Which back is your better back, Bucky or Etienne?
Between the two, if White stays, Etienne.
Who just said White? I'm not referencing.
No, that's what I'm talking about.
We're
literally talking about the running back
game. I know you love Tampa, the Buccaneers, with all your heart. Probably more than your wife. But I'm asking you, do you prefer Bucky or
Etienne?
Yes.
I'd probably take Etienne.
Okay, yeah, you've lost your mind.
Yeah, I'd probably take Etienne.
I would take Bucky over Etienne.
You're one shot Willie with one season, and I'm okay to say new coach Cohen. Let's see what he does with Etienne. 26 years old, 27 years old, entering his prime. Yeah, I'd rather see what Coach Cohen is going to do with him. That's just common sense. You're just rogging on one season that Bucky Irving had. He's literally a rookie.
Running backs enter their prime their second year.
No,
some of them are good different.
Sorry.
Your second year,
that is so wrong. That is so wrong. I didn't even. I didn't know that's what happened with Emmitt Smith. I didn't know that's what happened with all the running backs out
your
there.
prime in your second year.
Adrian Peterson, second year.
Second year, you are entering your prime here. But we appreciate you guys listening. Me being right as usual. Chris, keep trying. I appreciate you, man. A reminder, guys, that we will not be here for the 4th of July holiday. Please enjoy it with your families, but we will be returning the following Friday, of course, every Friday. Except
Can't wait till the season starts and we have these plus minuses again. This is gonna be fun.
Yes, exactly here. So we'll enjoy it. Hope you guys enjoy the holiday, guys. We're out.